All right, guys. I think that we are live. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so hopefully I pushed all the right buttons. So if you're in the chat and are watching and can see me, let me know. Actually, hang on a minute. Sorry, I was getting feedback. Had another one, another monitor on. All right, we can see me and we can hear me. Great. Let's see how many people we got in here. 35 people. Let's get a couple more people in the stream. Hopefully, my voice does not give out. I'm already feeling a little scratchy in the throat. We went to a Korean barbecue earlier today, all you can eat, and ate way too much. So, when are we going to get a new STI video? So, I worked on well, as the little banner down here says, 2017 STI update. That'll be the first part here. We'll talk about it a little bit. So last Wednesday or last Thursday, I was at the body shop helping my buddy finalize setting everything into place, doing the last little bit of tweaks on the frame rails because there was a little bit where the frame rails got slightly pulled in from where that piece hit the radiator support and pulled it in. It slightly pulled in the ends of the frame rail, so we had to put a pull jack on that and slightly spread those out. We had to take a porta power ram and press out a couple of pieces that were on the end of the driver side frame rail to get everything completely lined up with the lower radiator support, upper radiator support, and the end plates on the ends of the frame rails. But we finally got everything set about 4 o'clock on Wednesday or Thursday. I got my days all mixed up now. Everything's kind of a blur. But I think it was Thursday late. We got everything set in place. Tons of vice grips, the big C clamp ones, got everything clamped into place, everything lined up. Put the headlights in, the front bumper skin, the old front bumper skin, just make sure everything lined up, make sure the hood lined up, everything was good. And he was going to go through and re-weld everything back in. He was going to go ahead and mask off the car, engine, everything in the paint booth and paint all of that back white. And let me know how much I owed him for the welding, using his body shop, and him painting that. I was going to go pick the car up. I need to get on with SubaruPartsDeals.com. I meant to email them on Friday with the final parts list, but I got super busy and didn't have time to do that. So I probably should get off of here tonight and get that parts list up so I can email them first thing in the morning and get that stuff ordered. But plan to hopefully tomorrow or Tuesday, the STI should be welded up, painted, ready to go. Go grab it from his shop, bring it back to my house, and then we'll need to put in the new condenser, the new radiator. Still haven't figured out if I'm going to buy an aftermarket Koyo radiator, if I'm going to get a factory radiator. Lower radiator hose, the upper was fine. The AC lines turned out to be okay. What else? Still need the 2 impact sensors on the radiator support for the airbags. I still need both of the side impact halo airbags. I've got them in my cart right now from eBay. I think LKQ has them for about 50% off of what new price is for those. I need a clock spring, the front bumper skin, the little egg crate plastic looking piece that goes under there. I need the under engine splash guard. I need the little foam insulation pieces that go on either side of the condenser. I need, what else? I had that whole list in that video, but I got to go through and finalize the parts list. Hopefully get that stuff ordered tomorrow. Hopefully some of it will trickle in middle of the week or end of the week. We'll see. Start getting that stuff together. I need to take that bumper skin to him to get it painted. We're just going to paint it off the car. Hopefully it'll match up good enough and put it back on. I need to pull the rear bumper off, take it to him as well, and get him to paint that because it had all that spider web cracking at the back. And we looked at it closer in the paint booth under the lights, and there is actually, looks like someone ran into the back of them, or maybe someone backed into them in a parking lot with a truck with a receiver hitch and put a knocked a square little spot in the plastic bumper cover. So we might end up replacing the whole bumper cover. I've been looking on Facebook Marketplace trying to find one used local, but I haven't found one yet. So I really don't want to put filler in there because the first one looks like it has some filler in there and cracked. But I got to do that. And then I've got that new SPT exhaust I picked up on Marketplace for $200 to put on the car. I didn't want to go with a full aftermarket exhaust, so we've got the STI SPT exhaust for it. I've got a brand new installation kit with all new hardware gaskets from Subaru, all genuine parts to put that on. But yeah, we're getting really, really close. I should have the car back together, painted, fully assembled. I'd say probably by the end of January, it should be ready to go. And then we'll go through it mechanically. That new red line smoke detector I got, the dual one with the evap and the boost, we're going to put that on the boost side and check for boost leaks and all that. Then we'll just go through it mechanically, do the stuff we need to do. Like I've got a time belt kit, water pump kit. It should be here. Amazon was weird on it. I think it was Prime, but I don't think it's coming until like next week sometime. I don't get what's up with Amazon or why I pay for Amazon Prime anymore, because nothing ever comes in 2 days. I don't know about you guys that have Amazon, but are you getting your stuff that's Prime in 2 days? Because I sure as heck aren't anymore. It could be a week. It could be 4 days. It's just hit and miss. But I do have an Ison time belt water pump kit for it because it got 85,000 miles on it. The whole front of the car's off, and we got to replace that cracked time belt cover anyway. So we might as well go ahead and replace the time belt water pump and all that. I mean, the coolant's out of it. Everything's out. Everything's in the open. Do that. I'll get a new thermostat for it. I'll get a new PCV valve for it, and all the PCV hoses from the valve and all that. I don't know if I'm going to do every single vacuum line and all that on it. It just depends on how pliable they are or how brittle they are. I haven't pulled the boot up yet, but we're probably going to get an STI or SPT short shifter for it, or I might go with an aftermarket cart boy, something like that. Haven't checked. Don't know if it has the factory short shifter in it or if it's just the factory STI shifter in it. Looked at the newer 2018 to 2021 STI wheels. I got 2 sets of those on Marketplace saved right now with new tires, although the STI wheels I've got on the car now have brand spanking new Michelin Pilot Sports on it. So I'm probably going to resell those or keep them because, brand new Michelin Pilot Sport tires on the car. That's worth some money. That's probably $800 to $1,000 set of tires. I'm not exactly sure how much they go for now, but I'd say probably in that ballpark. And yeah, so probably by the end of January, the car will be complete. I'll be able to drive it around, and then we'll go through and do a full bumper to bumper inspection and find any mechanical issues, any defects like that, and just go my normal, post purchase of a new vehicle inspection checklist and have a wrap up video on that. So that's basically where the STI is. Hopefully in the next week or so, it will be together, running, driving, no more airbag lights, no more anything, and we can get down to work on what little modifications I want to do to it off the boat, and anything that you guys might want to suggest. We'd be able to work out with some of the aftermarket parts providers and see what we can do to it. Do want to get it tuned. I've already talked to my buddies at Shift Fast, and they had JR down tuning in December, and of course I missed that because I didn't have the STI back together. But I need to ask them when they're going to have Junior back down again to tune again, because I really want him to tune the car, especially after the SPT exhaust, just to make sure it's not running too lean. So I'm going to go through real quick and look at the chat. Then we're going to switch gears and talk a little bit about the new 2025 Forester. I haven't made a video on it. Probably will make a video on it standalone, and then we'll get to Q&A. Going to try to make this short tonight. Probably going to be on here just over an hour. It's 8:11 now, so probably about 9:20. Would like to get off here because that's about as much as I can talk before my voice starts giving out. So let's see. We'll switch over now to 2025 Forester thoughts, and love to hear what you guys in the comments have to say as well. Let's look through. I'm going to glance through the comment section real quick, and we will get on to the 2025 Forester. So as I put on the thumbnail for the live stream, if you did or didn't see it, I don't know exactly again how the live stream stuff works. It's been forever since I've live streamed on YouTube. Um, I really do not like the looks of the 2025 Forester. I don't know what in the world they were thinking in the design department. I guess it was the same crazy people that cooked up the VB WRX. I mean, with time, the VB is not as bad as I thought it was. I mean, it's not that much different than the VA, but there was just enough tweaking to make me not like it initially. And I really still do not like the design. I have more issue with the interior than the exterior at this point, although the back bumper is still hideous with it being like 50% just black plastic at the bottom. I don't know what they were thinking with that. And I still don't know what they were thinking with the Crosstrek kind of plastic over fenders on the VB chassis. But it is what it is. But I still just cannot stand that stupid gigantic iPad in the middle of the screen. And that's what we've got now with the 2025 Forester. The Forester still had the nice center stack that I liked. There was absolutely nothing wrong, in my opinion, with the standard size double din screen that they had in the Forester and the Crosstrek up until just the last year, with the manual controls for the HVAC underneath. I thought that was great. I thought that was phenomenal. Analog gauges still, love all that. Stupid big iPad. It's a distraction. There's issues when it goes dark that you can't control your HVAC. You can't do anything on the car. I think that the new Forester and the Crosstrek still have tactile physical heated seat buttons, but I know the Forester, I think the Ascent and the Legacy have the heated seat buttons in the touchscreen, which is stupid in my opinion. And just more planned obsolescence and more things to break in, a more expensive repair when it does break. So my big issues with the Forester, one, the exterior styling is disgusting. If you look at it one way, it looks like a Ford Explorer. If you look at it another way, it kind of looks like a Honda Pilot. I just do not like the front end of it. I mean, it really does, in my opinion, look like a Ford Explorer when you are just far enough back, because the blue Subaru oval looks very similar to a blue Ford oval. It's just that much similarities, I think, in the grille and the headlight shape of the. I don't think it's the current Explorer. I think it's the last Explorer, but I don't keep a Ford like that. But one of the late model Explorers has a very similar front end, and then the back end just looks kind of like a Mitsubishi. What's the Mitsubishi Endeavor or the whatever Cross Tour? I can't remember Mitsubishi. I mean, they're more into televisions and refrigerators and making alternators and starters than cars anymore, and mini split refrigerator air conditioners. So yeah, I just that exterior styling is not great in my opinion. They're making it even bigger, and the stupid infotainment screen I just don't like. I don't know why they wanted to go in that direction. I don't think that a lot of people took the VB WRX well on the design choice, so as we saw, and I don't think a lot of people on initial launch unveiling of this Forester have been keen on it. I don't think current Forester owners like the styling as like a majority, and I don't know. I don't know if they're trying to lure in more Toyota and Honda and Ford buyers like they have been steadily trying to do, that they're turning their back on the Subaru enthusiasts that built the brand to where it is now, that they're like, we don't care what the enthusiasts want. We don't care what Subaru fans want. We're trying to draw in all these outside brand customers just to pump up our sales numbers, which, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what all car companies are after, more and more sales. So can't really fault them for that, but it's just aggravating that how small of a car company they were for so many years. The diehard fans, the people that have been lifetime Subaru owners for the last 30, 40 years, they're just not listening to those customers that built the brand to where it is. And they're just trying to pander to the rest of the market to get more market share. So let me know what you think about it in the comments. I'm clearly not a fan, but we'll see if they make any revisions before it goes into production, or what the Forester version of what the Wilderness version will look like, and what they do with it from there, styling wise. But it just didn't do it for me. So we'll switch over and do some Q&A now. Go over to your Subaru and or tool questions, and I'll go back through and glance over some of this stuff and pick up with your comments and questions. Is the let's see, we got remember how to put these on screen. Is the Subaru Impreza easy to work on for a DIYer compared to most sedans? Um, I'm not a really good one to ask about that because I am biased towards Subarus and been working on Subarus now for 15 years, 14, 15 years, I think. So, I mean, they're pretty much all the same layout for all the generations. I think they're really easy to work on until you've got to do like a head gasket or something like that. But then, it's 35, 40-minute engine pull for those that are familiar with the cars and work on them. It'll probably be hour or two for a first timer that has to pull the engine. But as far as general maintenance and stuff, everything's pretty easy to access on top of the engine or below the engine, other than like the spark plug change. But if you've got the right tools and watch a good tutorial on it, it's not that hard to do the spark plugs either on them. But that's pretty much the only real challenging thing as far as scheduled routine maintenance on a Subaru engine for a DIYer that's not super um, up on their skills. I mean, that's as far as I can think. That's pretty much the only thing. It just depends on which Impreza you're talking about. If it's a newer one with a F series engine, or if it's an older one with an EJ. At least the older Imprezas with the EJ, the spark plugs came in at a 45-degree angle, more on top of the engine than the new ones that have them basically 90 degrees straight in line with the frame rail. So it's a little bit easier on the older EJs than the modern F series. I can find a button without looking touchscreens. You have to use to look to use. Yeah, I mean that's another thing that I think is crazy, that Subaru pushes eyesight, and you no longer have an option to order a vehicle without eyesight, and they're all about safety and the nanny technologies of lane assist and automatic braking, and the new camera that watches you to make sure that you're not texting and driving and making sure you're keeping your eye on the road. But now you have to go look over this giant screen as a distraction. It seems a little bit counterproductive to have a giant screen with the eyesight system too. Just maybe they put the eyesight system in there to kind of monitor what you're doing with the if you're watching your screen or watching the road. But I don't know. I don't get it. For some reason, all these automotive manufacturers have it in their mind that everyone wants giant touchscreens and all this integration of technology and stuff. But at least in my comment section and my viewers and what I see on YouTube, most people do not want that. They'd rather have tactile buttons and less screens. Yeah, that's another big complaint that a lot of people have, is the fact that it's slow and lags, and especially when it's cold out, that it lags even more. Only part I am curious about is what they'll do with upcoming hybrids. So we know that they already have a hybrid system in the Japanese market that we do not have in the US market with the e-Boxer. I don't know if they're going to bring it to the US. I don't know if they're going to bring the small bore turbocharged engines to the US either. Uh, I did a video a while back on it. I cannot remember the prefix on that engine, but I think it's a 1.5-liter turbocharged engine that's supposed to be better fuel economy than the 2-liter and 2.5 we have in the US market, and the 2.4. But I don't know if it's an emissions issue between the Japanese market and US market, or if they're just kind of going to ride what they have now until they try to transition to all EV. But hybrid, I think, is definitely the move over full electrification. It's just will they be able to make it work, and will they be able to bring this stuff to the US market? It's the big deal, because I think the e-Boxer came out for 2019 or 2020 model year in Japan in the Forester, but don't know what Subaru of America is doing. Let's see what we got. Any new tool updates, as in new stuff I bought or of Koken and Tone? So I don't really know of anything new from Koken other than the fact that they've recently changed packaging. They're doing away with their plastic cellophane wrap on their tools, and they're going to cardboard boxes, paper boxes to lessen their impact on the environment with plastics in their packaging. Nothing new from Tone other than at SEMA I did meet the new head of Tone's USA division, but they had nothing as far as dates or times into launching Tone for the US market, a website, any of that. So, kind of up in the air on that. I do have a small Japanese tool haul coming in the next week or two. But the only thing I got in there I don't think there was any Koken or Tone in there. Honestly, don't remember what I ordered. Now, I did buy one specialty KTC tool that I've been needing for the EN07 Subaru Sandbar engine, and I will be making some shorts and stuff about that when that comes in. How often would you recommend transmission fluid with the CVT 2014 Forester? Did one at 100,000 miles, closing on 200,000 miles now. So with the CVT, I made that video several years ago about not servicing it because that's what Subaru of America's official stance is not to service it. And then the videos we've done since then on servicing the transmission has opened up a can of worms because the Canadian viewer said, well, Subaru Canada says, every I can't remember if it was 50,000 kilometers or 80,000 kilometers, but they had a different metric for maintenance as far as the fluid replacement compared to Subaru of America. And then the mothership in Japan, Subaru, still says 3 year, 36,000 mile drain and refill is just the same as they have always said as the ATF in the 5EAT and 4EAT conventional. I recommend 3 year, 36,000 mile drain and refill like Subaru Japan recommends to my customers. Um, if you're changing 100,000 miles, you're closing on 200,000 miles, it won't hurt anything to go ahead and change it now. It probably won't hurt anything to wait to 200,000 miles to change it. But definitely changing the fluid is better than not ever changing it as far as recommendations on that goes. But as far as Subaru Japan says, 3 year, 36,000 mile drain refill. So that's what I tried to adhere by and get people to adhere by. Which DIY top don scanner remind me? So as far as a DIY bidirectional for like being able to do the rear brake rewind for the electronic calipers on eyesight equipped Subarus and being able to do the CVT relearn. The RT Diag 900 Bluetooth is a great one that's right around the $500 mark. And there is the, it's the, I need to have Top Dom's website in front of me because I can't remember the whole um, range of tools, but I think it's the RT Diag Pro, I think is like 650. It's basically the same unit. I can't remember what the differences are. They're basically the same size unit. I think with the RT Diag Pro, you can add key programming functionality to it. And I don't think the RT Diag 900 Bluetooth does, but I have the 900 Bluetooth. Let's see, we got pull it up here. It's the the Ultra Diag, and then there's the RT Diag Pro. So there's two different ones. But the 900 Bluetooth I personally have, I think it's like 550. Might be wrong. I know they had a sale from Black Friday until the end of the year. I don't know if it's still going on or not, but I have that one. It's great. It's fast and it'll do basically everything that my Phoenix Max will do. I just like my Phoenix Max because of the big screen, having the 4-channel scope, and just that bigger screen helps when you're overlaying lots of PIDs and lots of graph data on the screen. I'm looking at buying my first Subaru in the next month or so. I'm torn between the Crosstrek and the Forester. I have kayaks and gravel bicycles, no kids. Thoughts behind the two? I'm stuck. So personally, between the two, I'm going to pick Crosstrek because my first modern Subaru, I say modern Subaru, like F-Series engine powered Subaru, was that 2013 Crosstrek. Super high mileage Crosstrek I bought. I think I bought it with like 196,000 miles on it. I think I paid $4,000 for it back in 2019 or 2020. I got the car. I just actually got the car back from my mother. She'd been driving it for a year before I gave her the 2014 Forester, and absolutely love the Crosstrek. I think it's got 235,000 miles on it now. Haven't had any issues out of it. It's been great. Love the car. It is the original 2 liter that everyone cusses because it has no power apparently. I've never really had an issue where I needed a ton of power, but I don't drive it like a madman. I kind of drive it like a little old lady. As far as Crosstrek versus Forester, Forester has more cargo room because it's got the higher roof line, especially in the back. Crosstrek is a little bit more, streamlined, more car-like. The Forester has the 2.5 liter standard, whereas the Crosstrek now you can get the 2.5 as an option, and I think it's only in the sport model, and I think it's an option in the limited model. So if you want the more horsepower, you can have the same power in both now. So it comes down to, if you're looking to buy a brand new one, I'd go to the Subaru dealership and just test drive each, open up the backs, just try to visualize. You're mainly worried about cargo space, moving your stuff. How hard is it to get to the roof rack on the Forester? Depending on your height and all, it is higher up to get onto the Forester, because I had my bike rack on the 2014 Forester just to try, and the Crosstrek, and I could get stuff on and off of the roof of the Crosstrek much easier. I'm about 6'3". And as far as cargo space, the Forester just has more cargo space. So as far as how they ride, how they handle, and power delivery, it's basically the same now because they have the same 2.5, or you can get the same 2.5, same CVT in it, same everything, basically running gear and all. It's just what you prefer for cargo space, honestly, because the wheelbase and everything's basically the same. Forester has the X mode for off-roading. I can't remember if Crosstrek can have X mode unless you get the Wilderness Crosstrek. I'm not too up on my brand new ones and their options, but either are great, capable cars for that kind of stuff, for going out kayaking, gravel bike, all that kind of stuff. So it's more of a, how much room do you need on the inside and how much headroom do you need, because the Crosstrek is lower roof than the Forester. Let's see. Yes, you can put a kayak rack on top of the Impreza. Again, it depends on what model year Impreza you have. I think the Impreza Sport is a smooth roof. I don't think it has the rails, but where there's a will, there's a way. You can actually, since the Impreza physically is the same dimensions as a Crosstrek, you could go order the Crosstrek rails and put on there, and then get the crossbars. It just depends on how much you want to do. You can also get some aftermarket ones that clamp to the roof. I think that Yakima and God, what's the other one? The other big one, I can't remember. It's the one that Subaru is selling now as a genuine accessory. I'm pretty sure they got the clamp on ones too if you don't have the rail system. But again, if you want to get it, you can try to make the Crosstrek ones fit on there. So I get asked a ton about the EE20 diesel engine. Subaru of America never offered the diesel engine in the United States. I get a lot of you guys from the UK, Russia, and I think Australia asking me about issues with the EE20. I know they had issues with the EGR. There's a lot of soot issues on the EGR. This is stuff I've just picked up from like is it MRT or MTR Performance in Australia? They did a couple videos on the EE20, and I've looked into some of it a little bit, but I've never seen one in person or put hands on it because we just didn't have it in the US market. I really wish they had brought them to the US market because they really got great fuel economy compared to the gasoline versions. But for whatever reason, the US buyer just absolutely refuses to buy diesel powered cars. Diesel trucks are all the rage, but diesel cars just do not sell. If you look at Volkswagen, Audi, any of the ones, or I think BMW even offers a diesel model now, like it's extremely low volume. The amount of like TDI Jettas to gasoline Jettas they sell in the US market, just because people still have that. I think it's a lot to do with the image of diesel of being dirty and gross and chugging black smoke. And then in the 1980s, late 70s, 80s, when the US GM and Ford and all those tried to push the diesel powered cars. Like they had the diesel, I think there was a diesel engine in the Cadillac. I think they had like a diesel Chevy Caprice, some of those, and it was just a horrible engine. They had a lot of issues out of them, and people just did not stick. And I think that's still in the mind of a lot of US buyers. They don't want to deal with a diesel powered car, but it would be really great, other than, the EPA with the emissions and the EGR and the particulate filters and DEF fluid and all that mess that's messing up the diesels now. Let's see what we got. Just bought a 2018 Outback 3.6R Limited. Loving it. Is Subaru oil worth it over other brands? So, Subaru's factory engine oil that you get in the gold bottle is made by Edometsu. You can just go and buy Edometsu oil, and as long as the viscosity is the same, 5W30 or 0W20, 3.6R should be 530. Synthetic for a 2018. I think they switched to synthetic in 2015 model year, but it's not necessary. If you go to a Subaru dealership and have them change your oil, they are not using Subaru's Edometsu oil. They're using a bulk oil. So if you guys out there did not realize that, if you just go to a Subaru dealership and get your oil changed, 99% of the time, they're just using a bulk barrel of oil they get for cheap from like Wolf brand oil or Valvoline or something like that. They are not using those golden bottles of Subaru branded Edometsu. So you can use it. You can switch to Mobile One. You can switch to Castrol, whatever you want, but just make sure it's a synthetic if you're already using synthetic, and make sure it stays 530 if you're using 530, which I think is the recommended on the 18. Now, I did see for a while there where people were saying when they were having the oil consumption issues with the early FA and FB engines, that when they would switch to the Edometsu oil, that they lessen the oil consumption. I don't know if that's true or not. I'd heard several technicians tell me that from the dealerships where they had oil consumption tests done using generic oil or Valvoline or whatever, and they switched to Edometsu and the consumption halved or went away. I don't know how true that is or not. Most of the time, I think they were switching them from 520 to from 020 to 520 or 530 and running a higher viscosity oil to lessen that consumption. But who really knows? I'm interested in buying my first Subaru, but want to know your thoughts on the direct injection engine compared to the previous engine. Do you think reliability will be an issue? Thanks. So the problem now with direct fuel injection, it's not just a Subaru issue. It's everyone, Volkswagen, Audi, GM, Ford, all of them have been DI for the last at least 5 years or so. Well, majority are DI now. I think Volkswagen and Audi were some of the first ones to go direct injection, and they all have issues where they are carboning up the valves. The port injection engines just run so much better than the DI engines because you always have that solvent gasoline spraying on the backside of the intake valves to wash away and break down those carbon deposits and that oil mist from the PCV system recirculating back into the intake. When you have a DI engine, all those oil vapors and mist from the PCV system come back through the intake manifold, and they condense and they burn onto the intake valves, and you don't have that gasoline spraying, which is a solvent, to dissolve that stuff, and they just gum up and gum up and gum up. And Volkswagen and Audi now are doing like every 3 year, 36,000 miles, having to do manual valve cleanings, or they're doing upper engine cleanings. We did a video on the upper engine cleaner for Subaru. That stuff works to a degree, but it's not perfect because in a regular port injection engine, every second that engine is running, that solvent gasoline is spraying that solvent gasoline on those intake valves, continually flushing that stuff off of there. If you're only doing an upper engine cleaning once every 3 years, 36,000 miles, that cleaner is only going through there once every 3 years, 36,000 miles to work on that carbon building up on those valves for all that time beforehand. So it's not that effective. The most effective way to deal with the carbon is to remove the intake manifold and do media blasting or some kind of physical removal, which isn't cost effective nor time effective. So short answer is yes, it will affect reliability. It will affect, how well the engine runs, and it will affect cost of maintenance and service for that engine because of these valve carbon issues. One thing I really hate is that Toyota and Subaru came up with the D4S system where they have four port injectors and four DI injectors for the BRZ, the GT86, GR86, and Scion FRS. It would bolt onto any Subaru engine. I mean, they've already got the system in place for the Boxer engine. It would work on the FA20, the FB20, FB25, and the FA24. But for whatever reason, Toyota will only let them use it on the BRZ chassis. If we could use the D4S system, if Subaru could use D4S on all of the product line, we would not have to worry about the valve carboning issues like they are now with just running direct injectors on them. Had a Forester hybrid in Australia, not a success. Think it was a toe in the water thing. Just Was that the e-boxer, Andrew, or was that the um, See, in America, we had the first generation Crosstrek hybrid, which had a battery pack in the back under where the cargo area was. It encroached upon your cargo space. It had dual batteries, dual 12-volt batteries under the hood. It had a massive alternator generator, had a weird hybrid CVT in it. And I don't think the hybrid part of it was effective, but for only a small amount of range extension. And I don't think that the complexity, the weight added, really worked out to saving you any money compared to the initial cost of purchasing the hybrid over a base model and the fuel savings. I actually did a video, I think a year or so ago, about the modern plug-in Crosstrek hybrid, which, if I remember right, gives you like 30 to 40 miles of pure EV driving before that plug-in charge is depleted and then goes back to a standard hybrid system. And I think I did the math, and over the average 7, 8 year ownership of a vehicle, that the initial cost of the hybrid, you did not save any money compared to buying a base or a limited gasoline powered non-hybrid car. Just the price difference in the fuel savings was not there. So just why would you bring it to market unless there was a compelling reason to buy one? There just wasn't. I think even when we factored in the federal tax credit for the hybrid, I think the math still didn't work out to where the hybrid was a better value over the long haul than a standard gasoline only powered Crosstrek. And if I recall correctly, we haven't had any kind of hybridization on the Forester. It's only been a Crosstrek hybrid Gen 1 and then the new Gen 2 with the plug-in capability. Let's see. Any good replacement for the screw-on oil funnel you'd recommend? So yeah, I don't know why that oil funnel has gone away. It was AST, I think, that was making it, and not long after I started showing it on YouTube and put it in my Amazon storefront, did they discontinue it. I think they replaced it with their kit. I think it's a 5 or 6 piece kit where it's got one funnel and it's got 4 or 5 adapters where you can run the same funnel on several different manufacturers' vehicles. I think it just wasn't cost effective for AST to make a whole funnel for Subaru, a whole funnel for Toyota, Honda, etc. They were seeing more people buy the kit with interchangeability. AST's is great. I haven't tried that interchangeable one. I know that Vim has a universal funnel. It's got like a handle with a clamp and it expands inside. I haven't tried it on my Subarus. I do have it. I use it for my Duramax and a couple other vehicles because I do have the Subaru one that screws in and is perfect. But I can't recommend with firsthand experience any of the others because I just haven't used them. Now, I think there is OEM Tool or somebody or some no-name Chinese brand on Amazon. I think they make one specifically that screws in like the AST. I think it's just a carbon copy of it, but have not ordered one, have not used one. Don't know what the quality is like. That AST one I think I've had since 2014 Probably 2014, 2015, and it's been great. Haven't had an issue on it. Hadn't cracked. Hasn't nothing. So I actually just used it last week to change the oil in my Outback. What about manual transmission fluid intervals on a 2018 Forester 6-speed manual? I'm pretty sure that the manual transmission gear oil interval is still 3 year, 36,000 mile as well, which is the same interval as the front and rear differential gear oil, which being a manual transmission, you change your transmission gear oil, it takes care of the front differential gear oil because the manual transmission shares uh, front diff, center diff, manual transmission, all that gear oil is in the one unit compared to the CVT and the conventional automatic, where you have gear oil in the front differential and you have ATF or CVTF in the actual transmission unit itself. Let's see here. Engine rebuild. I have a 3.0 R86. Any recommendations as to should rebuild the engine? I'm in Florida also. She is an '05 LL Bean. Um, it's really hard to find a machine shop that can do Subaru engines. And what I mean by that is to line bore them correctly where they don't oblong everything as far as the main bearings are concerned. Um, you have to bolt the engine block halves together. You have to put these, God, what do they call them? It's some kind of like machine plates you have to bolt on in place of the cylinder heads and stuff. You've got to basically set it up like it is in the engine for them to get a true line bar through them, or else it'll like oblong it and you'll have issues with your main bearings and your crankshaft. Uh, Honestly, today it's cheaper just to go and import a JDM engine. Just go get another uh, EZ30D Phase 2 from one of the Japanese engine importers or on eBay. Uh, it's a factory sealed engine. It'll be low mileage as long as it's not flood damage or anything crazy like that. And then all you have to do, if I recall correctly, is swap your intake manifold, wiring harness, all that, just unbolt it and swap it onto the JDM engine. Because if I remember right, I think the US engine has EGR and the JDM engine doesn't have EGR. I know that was on the first generation of the EZ30D. I can't recall on the second generation with the R designation on it, but it's fairly simple to put the JDM engine in there and have everything work correctly as far as your emission pollution controls. So as far as money goes, last I checked, which probably pre 2020, you could pick up those JDM 3 liters for like $500 to $800, or probably over $1,000 now, just because of the price increase on everything. But it'd be way cheaper than going through and rebuilding your engine. Having the machine shop do the block work, do the crankshaft, checking the piston rods, all that, doing the heads. It's just more cost effective to replace it than to rebuild it, in all honesty. Let's see here. Well, I didn't realize that you did live shows here. Excellent. Yeah, I used to do them more frequently, but they are extremely sporadic. I'm going to try New Year's resolution to do more live streams and get out there and answer you guys questions more than I have in the past, because I've gotten very slack with doing live streams like this. So I'm going to try to do better. You putting a Corsa system on the STI? No, I love Corsa exhaust. I've had Corsa exhaust on both my Z06 Corvettes. I had it on my GTO, on my G8 GT. I had it on my Trans Am. I had it on my Joe Gibbs Silverado. But I'm not going to put it on the STI, and that's because, again, I found a Subaru SPT exhaust basically like new for $200 on Marketplace. And if you know about the SPT exhaust, if I recall correctly, it's about $1,300, $1,200 exhaust right now if you go to SubaruPartsDeals.com or somewhere else and buy it new. It's not as loud as an aftermarket exhaust. It's not as quiet as a factory exhaust. It has better flow, a little bit better sound, but it's not obnoxiously loud. I haven't really even looked at Corsa exhaust for the STI. I did look at the Corsa on the BRZ, and I thought about buying it for the BRZ. And had I kept the BRZ, I was going to do Corsa exhaust I was going to put a header on it, and I was going to do the God, what supercharger was it? I wasn't the Edelbrock E-Force because I looked at it, but it was another one. I can't remember the brand name now, but I had it all picked out, and I think I had it in my cart at Subi Speed or one of those Subaru Performance Parts places. But I ended up selling it before I pulled the trigger on it. Let's see what we got. Do 2023 Outback Limited need a larger sway bar? I haven't driven a 2023 Outback. I don't know what size sway bar they have there. I'm assuming it's the 17 millimeter. But if it's anything like the previous generation, I think the 10 to 14 and then the 15 to 19 generation, you could put the VA chassis STI 19, 20, or I think there's a 21 millimeter rear sway bar as well, and it just bolts straight up. All you need to do is buy the sway bar and the sway bar mounts. Use your factory end links, and it does stiffen up the back end. I did that on my 2015 Outback. I went from the 17 millimeter rear sway bar. I think I put a 19 on mine instead of the 20. World of difference on the highway, on the interstate at high speeds. It's not as twitchy in the back end. But again, I haven't driven a 2023 to know if it has that rear butt twitch at speed. When will we get real photos of the 2025 Outback? I have no idea. I would assume it'd be closer to the end of this year. I mean, we're in 2024. So the new unveiling should be around August, September, normally is when they unveil the new models. For some reason, Japan and the USA have been out of sync. If I recall correctly, when they unveiled the new Crosstrek, we saw it in Japan for a full month before Subaru of America unveiled it, which was hilarious. I did that video on it, and it's like Subaru's like, "Oh, the all new Crosstrek's coming out, blah 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 blah." Subaru America, we got to show it at the New York Auto Show or whatever. And like, everyone's like, "This is 2023. Everyone has the internet. We all know what's going on around the globe. We know that Subaru Japan unveiled the Crosstrek a month ago. You act like we're all in our own little tiny cove in the U.S. and can't see what's going on in the rest of the world. Like, I don't get it. If you're going to unveil it in Japan, unveil it in the U.S. market. Don't wait 3 weeks to a month and act like, oh, it's brand new. You've never seen it before. Like, no, we saw it. We all have internet access. We know what it looks like. So don't try to hide it and act like it's something we've never seen before. So I would assume August, September, but don't hold me to that. There might be some leaked spy pictures over the summer, which I think is when the Crosstrek spy pictures came out. But of course, they'll have the camouflage wrap on it and all that kind of stuff. So we got a $5 super chat here. Really appreciate that. Congratulations on the 2017 STI. Thanks for recommending the Top Don RT Diag Pro. I love it. Was able to reset diagnose my family's Mercedes modules. Awesome. I'm really glad that the Top Don scanner worked out great for you. Thank you so much for the $5. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm super glad to have my first actual real STI. My first WRX was an 05 Aspen White. And I went through and found a wrecked STI, and I did the whole blue STI suede interior, did the carpet, seats, all that stuff. Put an STI scoop on it. Did not do the STI wing because it was still a WRX. Went through all that stuff. I was going to 6-speed swap it and build the 2-liter in it, but ended up selling it. Or no, I traded that car. I traded it for a 3 Series BMW of all things. I traded it for a 330i M Sport. Big mistake. Only had that car for like 2 months, and then I traded it for another 4th-gen Camaro, which I knew inside out and backwards at the time because I was a big GM guy, LS guy. That was my very first Subaru, was that 04 Aspen White WRX, and then not long after that is when I got the 95 Legacy L patches, and then the LL Bean that basically launched the YouTube channel. So yeah, I'm really excited about this STI. Cannot wait to have it together and to drive it. What we got? Just all the new WRX STI S4 from the Tokyo Auto Salon. Need to come to the US. Just saying, rocket red countdown liftoff. So the problem with that the STI WRXS4 in the Japanese market, STI has become a style brand more than a hardcore like top offering performance car. So in the US market, STI only meant the high end, big wing, big scoop, big turbo, 2.5 liter, 6 speed, DCCT STI we know. In the Japanese market, you can get STI appointments on the BRZ, on the Lavorge, on the Crosstrek, on the Forester. Like STI is its own little niche brand. So they've got like STI Subaru Performance STI, the racing, factory race, and all that. And they've got like STI, the accessories you can put on your car. So like the STI shift knobs and the STI wheels and the STI spoiler and the front lip and all that stuff. So it's like stylization. So that that WRX-S4 STI version is basically just a regular WRX-S4. It's going to have the performance transmission, the CVT, the TR690 in it. So only difference is it's going to come from the factory with the STI inspired wheels and the STI side skirts and the why are there balloons on the screen? What did I do? Or did someone do something? I don't know. So it's just going to be a looks and appearance package, and it might have like SPT exhaust and SPT intake. It will not be a true STI. It will not be its own WRX STI model. It's just like a sticker package, beauty package for the regular WRX, unfortunately. How do you like your sandbar? Well, unfortunately, I sold my last sandbar back in, I think, July of 2022. And that was my 94 or 95 Super Deluxe. Only had like 30,000 kilometers on it. It was a beautiful, perfect truck. No rust, nothing. Grandpa owned garage cap, immaculate little sandbar. And I absolutely loved it because it was air conditioned equipped. But I'd gotten to the point where I wasn't driving it a lot. It was sitting a lot, and I didn't like that. And at the time, I needed to free up some money, so just sold it. I'm still looking for another sandbar. We just had that customer sandbar in between Christmas and Thanksgiving, I think it was, that we did the troubleshot, the no start on, just the timing, and did tell me about water pump on and another live stream. And just getting to drive it. Maybe want one again, reignited the little spark, want another sandbar, but I really want to find a supercharged air conditioned truck, which is extremely hard to find. And I can't recall if that's even possible factory option if you could get the supercharged and air conditioned combo on the truck. I know you could on the van, but most of the people I know that have a supercharged truck do not have air condition. I just don't know if it was something that you could even order or if it was just such a rare combo that most people didn't get air conditioning or they didn't get the supercharger. I don't know, but I'm on the lookout for one. If I find one, stars align, I'll get another one. If not, I'll just wait a while. So hopefully getting to Japan sometime this year finally. I might actually just snoop around and see if I can find one and ship it back home. Would you ever do a CVT flush via the cooler lines? No. And I've seen a YouTube video here. I've been tagged in a couple times. I've had people email it before. I just don't believe it's necessary. I think it's more, you could risk doing more damage than good by doing that. If you run the transmission fluid too low and run your pump dry while you're pumping it through, having the pump the transmission out the cooler lines, it's just not worth it. Just drain, refill, and be done. Um, I don't see the sense in going through all that aggravation of taking the cooler lines loose and making a mess for yourself when you got the drain and fill right there on the transmission and do it right there, easy peasy, not have to worry about possibly messing up the transmission. Do you have to use a scan tool to properly change a Subaru CVT transmission fluid, or you can get away with using a temp gun. Personally, I've never used a temp gun because I always had a scan tool to monitor the internal temperature on the scan tool the way that Subaru tells you to do it in the factory service manual. I'm just going to do it the way that the factory service manual does. I've not tried to do it with a temp gun. I've had people email me and comment that they've done it successfully. So, I mean, I don't see why you couldn't do it, but to be as dead on accurate as possible, using a scan tool to monitor that CVT fluid temperature is advised. Do you like the Ascent? Um, yes and no. Would I own it now? Probably not. If I need something that can seat seven, I would probably go for it. I do like the seats in it. I do like the upgrade with the little, under the knee leg bolster extensions on the seats. They're very comfortable. Haven't driven one to know how they ride. I would assume they're similar to the Outback, but I would assume with the extra weight stuff, they probably ride a little bit rougher than the Outback. Um, they've had the CVT issues since the Ascent came out in 2019. They've had issues with the FA24 turbocharged engine. At this point, I think they've got basically everything worked out as far as kinks with the FA24 and the CVT. But um, again, I don't know. I think they're spendy for what they are. I don't I don't buy new cars anymore. If you guys that follow the channel know that by 2015 Outback I paid $6,000 for. My BRZ I paid $8,000 for. My cross trek was $4,000. The 2014 Forester I bought was $3,000, and my 2017 STI was $7,000. I I learned my lesson on buying new cars long ago, hitting that depreciation. So I don't know if I found a good enough deal on a used Ascent, I would probably pick it up. Whether to keep myself or to flip, I don't know. But again, I haven't driven one. I haven't lived with one to know if I like it as a car on its own or not. Let's see. Let's skip down here. I think we're a little behind in the chat. EVAP question. Let's see. EVAP question. Here we go. I had a question about the EVAP canister vent valve on my 2007 Impreza. I took off the canister to replace the vent valve, but the canister doesn't fit back into place and is held up by some zip ties. Was it zip tied in before you took it down? Does it look like it been uh, hurt or hit or anything? It should just be bolted in. If I recall correctly, on the '07, I think there are little rubber bumpers that have dual little studs on them, and I think it's a 10 millimeter nut that holds them in. I think I think if you're looking under the back of the car, like looking this way towards the back of the car, I think that the canister slides up in there, and there's like two nuts on the back that hold it in. So there shouldn't be any zip ties in there from the factory. It should bolt in with those mounts. Um, if you were just replacing the vent valve and nothing else, I mean, it should go right back into place. Um, I did have a Forester at one point. It was a 2007 or 2008, and they came in after off-roading it, and they had run over a stump, and the stump had knocked the evap canister loose. It like cracked it open. It ripped a couple lines down. I had to go back and fix all that. But I don't know why, if you took it down, replace the vent valve, put it back up, if it wouldn't go back into place. Maybe something's been hit back there. Maybe it was in a rear end collision or something, and some stuff got knocked out of alignment, and they had just zip tied it up there to go. Hard to say. 99 Legacy Wagon 2.2 with 335,000 miles has always had what feels like a dead spot in the throttle. It has recently gotten worse. If I let up on the accelerator or mash it to the floor, it's fine. I'm assuming you've got an automatic and you're having a lagging issue in the automatic. I know the 2.2s are another one that everyone clowns about the FB20 engine in the Crosstrek having absolutely no power. But the old EJ22 was just as weak, if not weaker. Um, Hard to say without seeing any kind of live data, knowing the condition of the car. I mean, this high mileage, 335,000 miles is great that it's made it that long and still kicking. But without being able to see the car or look at some data, it's really hard to say if it's, an engine issue, transmission issue, something electronic, something mechanical. Really hard to say. I did a flush and refill on a TR 580 CVT on my 2014 Forester. The fluid I got out was red, and I have refilled with the Edamitsu SB2 twice. What happens if it slips like crazy at 4,000 RPM? Should I flush it? So the fluid should not be red. I don't know why the fluid was red. The Edamitsu SB2 or Subaru CVT fluid 2 should be a very pale teal greenish blue color. um, I had issue on my 2015 where I drained the CVT fluid and it was orange, which would be the coloring of the CVTF HT, the high torque CVT fluid for the TR690. I think someone had put the wrong fluid in mine, but for yours to be red, sounds like maybe someone put actual automatic transmission fluid in at some point, or you had some kind of cross contamination. Now, as far as cross contamination would go, the CVT fluid should only have an ability to cross contaminate with your engine coolant at the CVT fluid warmer cooler. I don't know where else it could cross contaminate other than maybe the seal between the front differential and the transmission. But gear oil mixing with the CVT fluid should not make it red. And the blue supercoolant that should be in a 2014 Forester mixing should not make it red either. So hard to say there. Sounds like the wrong fluid was in the car. If it's slipping at 4,000 RPM, if you got chain slip, uh, once you start slipping the chain on those variators, it's hard to correct that issue because that chain will really tear up those variators. Um, you said you've changed it twice. Was it still red the second time around, or it started turning back the bluish teal color? There is a CVT slip or anti-slip additive I've seen. I think Prestone makes it. I'm not exactly sure. I saw it advertised. I was going to try it my brother's CVT when he thought his CVT was slipping. It turned out just to be a misfire issue with the engine. So we never use it. I haven't used it in any customer's car to know if it works, but it might be worth doing another drainer refill, making sure that you have it to the proper level, and if it's still slipping, then you might want to put some of that CVT anti chain slip additive in it just to see. But more than likely, you will have to be replacing that CVT unit uh, because once they start slipping that chain, they really start tearing up the variators. And once they start slipping, it's really hard to keep them from slipping, at least from experience and what I've heard from others. Latest on the new Baja truck. So, for those of you who don't know, a lot of people have been talking about bringing the Subaru Brat back. A lot of people have been talking about bringing the Baja back, which neither were going to happen on their own as their own standalone. But Toyota recently, I say recently, I think it was sometime uh, early or middle of last year, announced that they were going to bring a small Ford Maverick style truck to the U.S. market, the Toyota Stout. Now, based on that, I think that they were going to try to do a uh, group effort like they did with the BRZ and the GR86, where that Toyota Stout would be branded as a Subaru vehicle as well, either wearing the Brat or the Baja nameplate. So it'd be a four-door trunk truck bed kind of SUV crossover truck, like the Ford Maverick or like the Hyundai Santa Cruz. I haven't heard anything else about it recently. I don't know if Toyota's pushing forward with it. I think it was supposed to be an inline four gasoline hybrid all-wheel drive. I don't know if Subaru is going to provide the all-wheel drive system, or it's going to be a Toyota all-wheel drive system. It'll probably be a primarily front-wheel drive transverse with a transfer case going to a rear-wheel drive, or maybe it'll be a hybridized system where it'll have a EV rear axle and a gasoline-powered front axle. I have no idea. It's only speculative at this point, what we've seen online. But if we do see a Brat or a Baja, it likely will just be a rebranded Toyota Stout, Ford Maverick, Hyundai Santa Cruz. It won't be like a Baja current Outback with the back cut open like the first generation Baja was, an Outback with the back cut off of it. And that'll probably be the only way we get another Subaru pickup truck. Your iPhone reacted to your peace sign. Oh, that is, I'm on my MacBook. You say if I do this, it'll make balloons come up on the screen. I don't, I don't know if that's true or if that's what that is or not. It didn't do it that time when I tried to do it. Let's see. It is almost 10 after 9. I think we'll take 4 or 5 more questions and wrap up the live stream as starting to really feel some scratchiness in my throat and getting to the bottom of the water here. Mr. Subaru, I have a 2008 Subaru Outback. I love this car. Been a good one to me. I baby the thing, but I think I have a blown head gasket near cylinder 1. Are they really as easy to change as I've seen? So before you go pulling out the engine, you always want to confirm that you do have a blown head gasket. The two main easy ways, or not so much easy, but super confirming ways to make sure you actually do have a blown head gasket would be, one, do a block test. You get the blue fluid in the beaker that goes over the neck of your radiator, run the car after removing some of the coolant from the radiator, squeeze the bulb, pull any gases that could be in the cooling system from hydrocarbons exhaust going into the cooling system. Through that fluid, it'll change it from blue to yellow. If there are hydrocarbons, if there is exhaust in the cooling system, which would confirm a blown head gasket. Or the main way I like to do it is go through and do a cylinder leakage test on each of the cylinders, radiator cap off, and look for bubbling in the radiator. Inject that air into the cylinder at top dead center with the intake and exhaust valves closed, piston at top dead center. And if you have bubbling in your radiator, you have that air going through the head gasket into the cooling system and coming out the neck of the radiator. So always confirm 100% that you have a blown head gasket, that you don't, have a low coolant issue or a thermostat that's holding up shut, or a partially clogged heater core, or partially clogged radiator, or an issue where a cooling fan is not working. Make sure you strike all that other stuff out. Make sure you confirm that the head gasket is bad. From there, you want to pull the engine out. I know a lot of people say you can do it in the car, but it is so aggravating to do it in the car with as much stuff as you have to take off the engine to do a head gasket in car. You might as well just take the entire engine out of the car and have all the room to do it properly, do all the cleanup, put everything back together. Engine seal kit from Subaru is about $300 last time I priced it. You'll need to buy the multi-layer steel head gasket separately, because that engine seal kit will come with the single layer graphite coated gaskets that you don't want to put back in there. Those upgraded head gaskets are like 20-30 bucks a piece. You want to send off your cylinder heads to get them machine checked, check the valve guides, because they were bad about the valve guides pulling out of the head from valve carbon issues, carbon getting on the stem of the valve, starting to pull those pressed valve guides out of the cylinder head. About $500, $250 to $500, depending on your machine shop, to go through and hot tank them, pressure check them, check for leaks, clean up the valves, valve seats, all that good stuff. So if your time and effort, if you're a pretty competent DIYer, watch the videos. You could probably knock it out for $1,200 or less on your own. And you could knock it out in a week's time, depending on your turnaround for your machine shop and your speed of working. I mean, I could pull the 2.5 EJs in 35, 40 minutes for on the engine stand, disassemble, machine shop, 2, 3 days to a week turnaround, get them back, throw it back together, chunk it in the car, ready to go. I'm trying to get a WS6 with a T56. Did you enjoy your fourth gen Camaro? I've had 9 F bodies. Of those 9, I think 7 of them were fourth gens. And yeah, I absolutely loved my fourth gen Camaro and Trans Am. And I wouldn't mind having another one. That is for sure. But at this point, they're all pretty ragged out. And if they're not, they're way too expensive for me to get just to play with. Let's see. Let's hit a couple more questions and we're going to wrap it up for the night, guys. I bought the EP Auto socket set, and my son, who is well, I am going cross out of my context drawing out. And my son, who is in a new industrial maintenance tech, stole it from me because I got the chance to use it. But nice set. Thanks for the information. Yeah, that EP Auto socket set I showed, it was over a year ago, I think, that had at the time the exact same ratchets that Harbor Freight sells in the Icon brand. It had a 1/4 inch Icon ratchet, a 3/8 Icon ratchet, and then the sockets. After I made that TikTok, YouTube short, Instagram reel video about that set, it wasn't a week or two later that it was completely unavailable on Amazon. They completely pulled that set. It was gone off of Amazon for like 6 months or so. And when it came back to market, a couple of people bought it thinking I was full of crap. And they got the set and they had changed the ratchets. They no longer had the same ratchet that the first set I showed had in it. And a lot of people said I was full of crap and making stuff up. But what happened was, as soon as I made the video, a week or two later, they pulled the set off Amazon. It was gone for 6 months. They changed the ratchets in it and then sold it again. So at the time, in my video, I pulled the EP Auto set apart, the Icon from Harbor Freight, and you could see their exact same ratchet, had the exact same part number cast in the handle. I'm glad you enjoyed the set you got now, but it's not quite the same set it was a year and a half ago. It was a lot more bang for your buck then when it had those nicer 92 ratchets in it. Are you going to build another American car again? I don't know. I'd love to have another Corvette too. I don't know if I'd want another C5 Corvette. I've had my eye on a C6 or C7. It's just not in the cards right now. I've got too much money to spend on building the shop and renovating houses and all kind of stuff around the farm. I just don't have Corvette play money for any of the foreseeable future, unfortunately. But yeah, I would not mind having another fourth gen F body or another C5, C6, C7 Corvette. Let's see here. Let's hit a couple more and we'll go from there. Oh, Timmy's on here. Hey, y'all, how's it going? Oh, another super chat. Sorry I missed you. Just getting down through here real quick and see if there's any more. Let's see. I have a 2015 Outback that winds between 45 and 55 mile per hour after a CVT fluid change by the dealer. Any thoughts on what it could be? They might have underfilled your CVT. You might want to check your fluid level independently. If the problem, actually, let's back up. If you paid a Subaru dealership to do a service, and immediately after that service you were having a complaint about your vehicle, you should make it known to that dealership that right after the service was done, there is an issue and they need to check it out. They should pony up and check out to make sure that it was done properly, that the fluid level is correct. Make sure there's nothing wrong on their end. Not saying that you know it was maliciously done wrong or whatever. Accidents happen. Sometimes things aren't done exactly the way they should be. So I would immediately bring it up to the dealership if it hasn't been like a long amount of time elapsed in between. bring it up to them that, hey, after you did that service that is documented right here with a receipt, I have this new complaint. I think it's connected. Check it out for me, please, and go from there. But if they blow you off or whatever, I would start with checking the CVT fluid level, make sure it is properly filled, make sure it's not low, and this front differential is very close there to the CVT. It could be something going on with the front differential. So check your front diff gear oil level, check the condition of it. If you haven't serviced your front differential in quite a while, you might want to go ahead and service the gear oil in your front differential and see if that helps the noise. But the fact that you said that the noise started right after the CVT fluid service, I would assume that they are related. So it's probably the fact that they just underfilled the CVT slightly or something like that. Hopefully, no damage done. Hopefully, it's something they can easily remedy for you. And again, appreciate that $5. Let's see here. Mr. Subaru, I got a set of the grip edge RPT sockets off of the truck recently. Are the torque sets actually useful or any good? The Allen set I will say looks to be promising. So I have the torque sets, but the problem with Subarus is the Subaru does not use Torx anywhere except for that T70 drain plug on the front diff on some of the older ones and the manual transmission gear oil drain plug. So as far as regular Torx sockets, I haven't really even used my RBRT from Mac that I have or my grip edge RPT. I've had the off chats couple here and there. GM, I think some of the older GM trucks had Torx bolts for the driver's seats or the seat belt anchors. I can't really remember. I've used them a handful of times. I don't know if they are as crucial as the RPT, RBRT hexes are, but I can swear by those RBRT, RPT hexes. They have saved me more times than not. Any of you that work on the EJ257 and have dealt with the 10 mil hex bolts for the AVCS camshafts, they're notorious for rounding out. I got a comment the other day from a guy that works at a Subaru dealership that has been using the RBRT hex on those AVCS cam gear bolts and hasn't stripped out or rounded out a single one since he started using it. They do work. They are great. Have no complaints about using them. They have been phenomenal. But as far as the Torx bits go, I don't know. I can't really see too terribly much difference between a standard Torx bit and the Torx bits. A big thing with Torx bits are that Torx is a patented design. So if you buy a set of sockets, look at them closely because some of them will say Torx and some will say a star bit. If it says a star bit, it's close, but it's not to the exact dimensions of the Torx patent because they have to pay for the usage of the Torx name on their socket. So if they change it slightly, they can call it a star bit. And a lot of times the cheaper tools say star bits rather than Torx bits. And the star bits do not fit because they are slightly undersized. The dimensions are a little bit different just so they can circumnavigate having to pay for the Torx nameplate on their product. So normally Torx fasteners in Torx screws don't give a ton of issue unless they're like super corroded or really gnarled up or someone else has boogered them up. But if you're using those star bits do not fit as well as Torx and can cause you issues. But to answer the question, I honestly don't have enough hands-on real-world experience with the actual Torx bits. I can say that the T70 RBRT Torx, because RPT stops at T60 right now. I'm trying to get them to make a T70. I requested it because I've got an RBRT Mac one. And it has saved me a couple of times where people have rounded out that T70 drain plug on Subarus. I had a customer that was down in Columbia, South Carolina, and he brought his car up to me after the local Subaru dealership down there said they were going to have to replace his entire transmission because the drain plug just would not come out because it was stripped. And I said, man, bring me that thing. I'm not going to let them charge you $5,800 to put a transmission in it because you can't service your front differential. So he brought it up to me, and in 15 minutes, I had the old drain plug out, serviced his front diff, put a new factory drain plug in it, and I think he was out the door for $100. So They do work on that. I swear by them for those drain plugs. But as far as the regular size torque stuff works, I haven't used them enough to really say one way or the other. Wait, what is the difference between the front differential and the CVT oil? So the CVTs, again, you have a front differential. The front differential is the part at the front of the transmission. So you've got your bell housing that holds the torque converter, and then you've got your front differential that is below that torque converter. It's where your front CV axles go into the transmission. That is a ring and pinion gear, just like a rear differential in any other vehicle. You've got one at the front there that distributes the power. The power goes through the CVT, drops down on a transfer shaft, and it comes forward to that front differential to put power out to the front wheels. There is gear oil in the housing for that ring and pinion for that front differential that is separate from the automatic transmission, the CVT portion where the chain and the variators are. You have CVT fluid 2 in that unit. There is a plate or a distinct seal gasket between the front differential and the CVT. It is one whole unit, but the front differential is a separate piece that uses gear oil. If you look at this underneath where your front axles come in, there's that aluminum section with the fins on it. You'll see a drain plug that should be that T70 Torx. It will say diff drain or drain differential. I can't remember which is cast in there. And then there's one to the, if you're laying under the car, coming from the front of the car, the drain plug should be to the right side. And on the left side, there should be a smaller, I think it's an 8 or 10 millimeter hex. It says check. That's a check plug. Then on the side of the unit, right above, up and slightly back of the right hand passenger side CV axle, that is your fill plug. So you use 75W90 gear oil in that differential. What you do, you take the drain plug out, drain it out, take the check plug out. There's a little bit of CVT fluid that gets in there. It'll drain out. Put your drain plug back in. Well, first you want to take your fill plug loose, because if you can't get your fill plug loose and you get your drain plug loose, you're screwed because you drained all your fluid out and you can't put any fluid in. So you pop that fill plug loose first, drain it out. You put the drain plug back in, start pumping the gear oil in that fill plug. When it fills up enough, it will spill over the ledge and come out that check plug. That check plug just lets you check the fluid level because they don't have a dipstick anymore. They used to have a dipstick. Once it starts dribbling out of that check plug, you put the check plug back in, you put the fill plug back in, and you are good to go. Have to have the car jacked up and level to do that, because you don't want it at an incline, because then your fluid won't be at the proper space. It'll start going over that that ledge out the check plug without filling that cavity properly. So that is two different fluids in the CVT. You have the 7590 gear oil for the front differential, and CVT fluid 2, CVT fluid 3, CVT fluid HT, and I can't remember the other one, the new amber fluid, but there are several different ones that is the transmission fluid for the transmission part. All right, so we will wrap it up here. Let's get this last question here from Robert Armstrong. Mr. Subaru, I have a 2018 Impreza with the CVT. It has 35,400 miles on the clock. Should I consider changing the diff, trans, and brake fluid? Many thanks for the content. So you were right at, if you want to follow factory recommended maintenance service schedule, drain and refill your CVT fluid in the CVT. Drain and refill the 75W90 gear oil in the front differential and the rear differential. And brake fluid, it depends on where you're at, what your climate is. If your brake fluid is still clear, I wouldn't go ahead and replace it. But I think that's the recommendation, is 3 years, 36,000 miles on it, if you want to have the brake fluid flushed out. The problem with brake fluid, people like to think that brake fluid service is a scam, that these quick lube places charge you to change brake fluid. You don't need to change it. Brake fluid is a hydraulic fluid, and it is hydroscopic, which means it absorbs water. Any humidity, water in the atmosphere, it can absorb. When water gets into a hydraulic system, that's a bad thing, because water can squish, and hydraulic fluid is not supposed to. So you start losing pedal feel. Your brake pedal starts getting squishy. Your brakes don't feel as firm on your brake pedal when you get a lot of water and age on your brake fluid. You also notice it starts getting darker. The reason it starts getting darker is because once that water gets in your brake fluid, that water is inside of your steel brake lines, inside of your brake caliper, your wheel cylinders, if you have drum brakes, and that stuff will start to corrode the inside lining of the brake hoses and the calipers and all that. And that's what starts darkening up your fluid is little bits of rust and oxidation from inside the braking system. So you want to flush the brake fluid out periodically to keep the water out of the system, to keep a good firm brake pedal feel, and to keep the inside of your braking system stuff, components from corroding, rusting up. So when people say they're going to flush your brake fluid and you watch that 2020 or Dateline thing about scam mechanics, it is not a scam. You do need to replace your brake fluid regularly, but if it's still clear and it still looks like in good condition, you don't necessarily need to check it. If you go on Amazon and online, there are little strips. Like, I don't know how many of you are diabetic or know a diabetic. They used to have the little test strips where you put your drop of blood on it to check your blood sugar level. They've got those little strips where you can step them in your brake fluid and it will tell you how good or if you need to replace your brake fluid. If you're ever curious about that, you can buy a little thing of those test strips and check your water content. I think is what it checks for in the brake fluid to see if you need to replace it or not, if you have any questions on it. So, guys, we've been on here for about an hour now, I think. Hour and 26 minutes, actually. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Sorry I did not have a regular Sunday video for you guys. I filmed the video. I edited the video. I did not feel like it was great. I was not happy with it. I'm going to try to refilm it this week and try to get that out to you. I'll try to get you a Wednesday tool video as well and try to get a long format video on Sunday. We might have an STI update video. Hopefully that will be all welded up and painted and ready to go for the mechanical repair. So we might have a video on the STI instead of the video I already filmed that was supposed to be out tonight and I just didn't like, but we'll go from there. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the live stream and I will see you guys next time around.